one of their democratic rights, the right to vote. And the stakes are very high. In fact, experts have said that this is going to be about the most competitive election in Ghana's political history, and the major players in this election are not leaving anything to chance. Let me again run you through what we shall be doing as far as election focused is concerned from Monday to Friday. On Monday, we shall be throwing spotlights on the various manifestos of these political parties: the NDC, the MPP, the Movement for Change, the New Force, the CPP, which is not yet out, the PNC, which is also not yet out. Then on Tuesday, we shall be looking at the various constituencies, but we shall be focusing on strongholds. However, today's edition is a special. We are looking at the Greater Accra region, all the 34 constituencies in the region, the ones that are swing seats, the ones that are strongholds of the NDC, the MPP, and the ones that, you know, could actually tip the scale and decide or determine who wins the general election. On Wednesday, we go to your communities to see some projects that have been embarked on, the ones that have been abandoned as well, and we give you, the viewers, the constituents, to also share your opinions with us on what to expect and the projects that have been started by these parties and how its abandonment is not good for you and your community members. Also on Thursdays, we are looking especially at swing seats. Then on Friday, we crown it with the campaign trails of the various political parties. As I indicated yesterday, both the NDC and MPP, it appears their campaigns are gaining momentum. So they are currently touring the country. The NDC, I know, their flag bearer, John Dramani Mahama, just concluded with phase 2 of his Greater Accra regional tour, and he has jetted off to the Bono region. And so the campaign trail of the NDC is in the Bono region. Also the MPP, the flag bearer who doubles as our vice president, his campaign is also in full swing and he is touring the country. It appears that of the other political parties haven't yet gained momentum. The Movement for Change, for that matter, they just nominated a new running mate in the person of our very own Kwame Osudan. So the CPP as well, they just, you know, had their nominations and they have a new flag bearer. Also with the PNC, we do know that Bernard Mona is their new flag bearer. So no conversation yet about their campaigns, but I'm sure all of that will be starting very, very soon. Let me quickly introduce to you my guests that have joined me in the studio this afternoon. Right, so Justice Appiah is ahead of news here, and he doubles as the host of our evening program, Hot News. That is, Justice, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Bless. Good to see you again. Good to see you. I'm looking forward to a nice show. Right. One of compelling conversation as well. Right, and I'm meeting for about the third or fourth time Musa Dankwa. Mr. Musa Dankwa is the executive director, I hope that is the position, yes, of Info Analytics. And let me also say that over the past few months, he is taking his samba in quotes, like we put it, because most of his predictions that people weren't taken seriously in the beginning, all of them have played out perfectly, exactly as you know, as he predicted. So from the 2020 general elections, from that of the elections of the National Democratic Congress, the NPP, the NPP's executives election, he made some predictions, and then their primaries, their presidential primaries as well, when they had the first phase to trim down the numbers to 5, and then every prediction of his has been spot on when we had to go for by-elections every prediction that he's made has been spot on. And so he is a man of immense credibility. He's not one of those pollsters who would come out to tell you that the NPP is in a comfortable lead, and then the results will come out and then the reverse is the case, and vice versa. When he tells you that you are losing, you are losing. So this is a man whose words you should take very, very seriously. Good afternoon, Mr. Dankwa. It's always a pleasure to be in your storied company.
Nice to be here.
Right. So without further ado, we'll get straight into our conversation for today. Like I told you, on Tuesdays we look at the strongholds, but today is a special because we have Mr. Dankwa himself here with us. We are looking at the entire Greater Accra region. In years past, or in years of yore, in past elections, bar what happened in 2020, whoever won the Greater Accra region was going to win the general elections. That has been what we witnessed from 1992 to 96, to 2000, 2004, 2008, 2012, 2016, but in 2020, something else happened. The National Democratic Congress, they won the Greater Accra region, but failed to win the entire country. So they failed to win the general elections, despite the fact that they had won the Greater Accra region. First of all, I'm going to start engaging Mr. Dankwa on this and ask him if we are to expect any of what happened in 2020, as far as this region is concerned. Greater Accra region, they've been known to be the kingmakers. You win Greater Accra, you win the country. In 2020, that did not happen. Are we to, is there any possibility of that playing out again in the 2024 general elections?
Thank you very much. From what we have seen from the data, it doesn't suggest so. As you may be aware, we have been polling for the past 32 months or more, every 90 days. So our poll don't just come in and just give you a snapshot. The trend in polling is very important than just a single period polling. So we have seen consistently that the three swing regions, the Greater Accra, the Western region, and the Central region, are tilting towards John Mahama for the past 2 years or more. So we don't expect what happened in 2020 to happen again.
I see my man, Gregory Amwa, he's a parliamentary correspondent here at Pan-African Television. Greg, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Bless.
I trust you're well.
Right. Doing fine.
So we can see on our screens the data for the 2020 general election, and out of the 34 seats, 20 went to the National Democratic Congress. If Greg, you can run us through that.
Right. So, Bless, this is the total breakdown of seats in the region. As you said, it has 34 seats. 20 of them in the last election went to the NDC, 14 went to the NPP. Now, in the 2016 elections, the breakdown was that 21 seats went to the NPP, and then only 13 seats were gained by the NDC. So, in the last election, NDC had a net gain of 7 more seats, whereas the NPP lost 7 more seats. Now, this is the regional breakdown. As this is the map of the region, and so the deep green areas or the deep blue areas are areas that the NPP or the NDC won, but they won with huge numbers. And then so we take it right from the Ada constituency, where the NDC's candidate Comfort Doyo won by a percentage of 82.1. So that shows you how confident the NDC is in that constituency. Now, when we go to
I think so Greg has a bit of an issue that would be rectified shortly, but so I think the preamble has been clear that whoever won Greater Accra happened to win the general elections, except that in 2020 we saw a different pattern. But Mr. Dankwa has giving us his word. And like earlier stated, there's a man whose words you take seriously. So he has said that areas like the central region appear to be tilting towards the National Democratic Congress, and same is going to be repeated perhaps in the Greater Accra region. But let's get back to Gregory Amwa. Greg?
Right. So let's again go to Sege. That is also another constituency that was won by the NDC. If you look at the margins, it's not a deep green seat because the NDC's candidate won by 52.5% as against 47% by the NPP's candidates. Now, when we move to Ningu Pram, Sam Nati George won by 69.8 as against 28.6, going in favor of the NPP. And if we move up to Shai Osudoku, Linda Obinewa of the NDC won by 67.2%, whereby Benjamin Nage of the NPP won by 32%. Now,
so these are all deep green
yes
areas.
But for Sege, which is not a deep green area,
so all the constituencies in that enclave,
yes, are deep green, but for the Sege constituency. And so when we come to Katamanso, the NDC's Joseph Akwete won by 55.3% as against Hobson Adoye, who was then a member of the NPP. And then also down here is the Ashaiman constituency, which was won by the NDC's Ernest Henry Nogbe. And then we move next to Madina. Francis Sosu won by 56.6% as against 42.8%. So this is also not a very deep green seat for the NDC. And then we come to Adenta. Mohammed Adamu Ramadan won against the then incumbent MP Yabobabena Samoa. He won by 55.9% of the total votes cast. And so then we move into more of the blue enclave, where we come straight to Dome Kwabenya, where Sarah Adjwasafo, who lost the primaries, but then as incumbent MP, she won by 58.4% in that constituency. We move to Amasaman, which was won by Kwesi Owusu Efrifa Mensa as against Sedem Koku Afenyo. Now the NPP's candidate,
and that's not a deep blue area.
Yes, that's not a deep blue area because he won by 51.1%. In fact, that seat used to be an NDC seat, and it was snatched by Kweku Owusu Efrifa Mensa, who also went on to lose the primaries this year, so he will not be on the ballot as far as the 2024 parliamentary election is concerned. Now, this Trobu is a deep blue seat for the NPP because they won by 62% over there as against the NDC's 34%. Now, this is another green seat for the NDC. That's Domiabra Obum, Sophia Karen Akuaku. She won by 60% of the votes cast, but she went on to lose the primaries this year, so she will not be appearing on the ballot for the NDC as far as this year's election is concerned. And then we move to Botiano English Amanfro. Sylvester Tete won by 53.3% of the vote cast. And then onto the Weja constituency, which I think is very close to the Botiano English Amanfro constituency, where Gifty Na Ayele Mensa won by 58.1%. She also went on to lose this year's primary, so she will not be on the ballot for the NPP. Now, this is a deep blue seat for the NPP. Anya Sotum Dixon Adumakukisi, then first timer, won after the current minister for Foreign Affairs was exiting power. So he came in the first time, he won. But he also went on to lose this year's primaries to Emmanuel Tobin, so he will not be appearing on the ballot for Anya Sotum. And then we move on to the Ablekuma West constituency. Incumbent MP Esla Gifty Owusu won by 54.3%. And then also Ablekuma North was won by Sheila Battels, 64.2%. She also lost this year's
another blue area.
Yes, but she lost the primary, so she will also not be appearing on the ballot for the NPP this year. And then we go to Ablekuma Central, which was won by Dan Abdul Latif from the NDC. Now, that was a very close election.
Very close. Just 0.2%.
That was a very, very close election. And this year, Dan Abdul Latif is coming up against Jefferson Saki. And so that is one of the areas that we should be looking at as far as the Greater Accra region is concerned. Then we come to another deep green seat for the NDC, Alormasor South. Alfred Oku Van Der Poel, former mayor of Accra, he won by 61.4%. And so that is an area that the NDC was quite entrenched in as far as the last election was concerned. And then to another green seat, which is not that deep green, Clote Kole constituency, Dr. Zaneto Ajiman Rawlings won by 55.7% as against 44% by Prince Appiah of the NPP. And so this year she's coming up against one Valentino Ninoy from the side of the NPP. So that's also another seat we need to pay keen attention to. And then we come over to Okaikwe North, which used to be an NPP seat until Theresa Ladi came and then wrestled the seat from incumbent MP Fuseini Issa. This year she's coming up against Nana Ama Dokuya, who used to be incumbent MP for, I think, Equiapem North, if I'm right. And so she has jumped ship. She has moved over to the Okaikwe North constituency and she'll be contesting against incumbent MP Theresa Ladi. Now, that is also not a deep green seat because the NDC's candidate won by 51% of the total vote cast. So that is also for that constituency. Now, we move to Okaikwe Central, which Patrick Yabuama won by 59.6%. This year he's coming up against Baba Sadiq. So that's also one area we'd like to
that looks like a deep blue seat.
Yes, but this year, I'm sure when Senior Musa counts, we'll have to go into that one.
Yeah.
Yes, and then Okaikwe South. This looks like a deep blue seat for Dakwa Newman. She won by 60.8% of the total vote cast, and so that also looks like a deep blue seat. Now, if you look even at the history, the NPP won in 2008, 2012. 16, so that looks like a deep blue seat for the NPP. And then you come to Ododo Edwin Nilante Van Der Poel. He won by 53.8%. This year he's not going to be on the ballot. It's going to be Ni Ashikote, and so that is what it looks like. That is also one of the areas I would like us to look at very much today, because it looks like one of the areas that could determine yes who wins,
despite being won by the NDC in previous elections.
And then Ladade Kutupon Rita Na Odolesoa, she won by 53.1%, and that it was won by the NDC in 2008 and 2012, but in 2016 it turned to the NPP. She managed to turn it back to the NDC. So we are looking at how it pans out this year as far as the 2024 general elections are concerned. And then Ayawa Central, Henry Korte, he won by 52.9%. He's coming up against the same candidate who the NDC fielded in the last election. So we're looking at how that one also pans out. And then on to another blue seat, Ayawa West Wagon. It has been a religious seat for the NPP. They won in 08, 12, and then 16. Lydia Seram Al-Hassan won by 51.4%, as against 48.3% by the NDC's John Seto Dumelo. And now on to the Ayawaso North constituency, Yusuf Jaja won by 62.7%. So that also looks like a deep blue, almost a deep blue seat for the NDC, if not a deep blue seat. Sorry, if not a deep green seat for the party. And then Ayawaso is Nasa Mahama Ture, also won by 61.2%. So it shows you how that enclave, the voting patterns of the people are over there in both the Ayawaso East and the North constituency of the Greater Accra region. And then we come down to Krowo. Agnes Namomu also won by 55.8%, as against Elizabeth Afole, 43.5%. So that's also one area, that enclave, it tends to swing a lot. Tends to. The NDC won in 08, all right. Then they won again in 12. But if you look at the voter margin,
very close. Very
came
close.
back to win in 2016. It tells you how that seat is. And then Tema is Carlos Kingsley Ahenkra, 50.7%.
Which is not contesting again this time.
So, but that seat looks like it's, even though it's quite close, sometimes it looks like it's entrenched for the NPP party. And then to Tema Central Youths, Hansen, he won by 65%, but went on to lose the primaries this year. So he also not appearing on the ballot for the NPP. And then I think on to our very last Tema East, Isaac Ashai Odampton, 55.9%.
Right. I didn't see Lejo Koku in there. Because if you are talking about swing seats, Lejo Koku is about the chief swing seat, you know, in Ghana.
It should be somewhere here. Okay.
Right. But I want us, Mr. Musa and Justice, it appears you've been thrown out of the equation entirely, but I'll come to you, I promise. But let me stay with you, Mr. Musa. I want us to look at, Greg, I want us to look at the deep blue seats.
Okay.
There's something interesting about them, that it appears that almost all the deep blue seats that there are on the screen there, they are parliamentary candidates are newbies. They are people who are, people who seem to have ousted the incumbent MPs and they are going newly. Why is that? Why does it look like if you take all the deep blue seats, almost all their incumbent MPs lost their primaries?
You know, primaries is a different ball game. It's not the voters' popular choice in the primaries. So group of people caucus and elect someone they think can do a better job. In most cases, it has no bearing with what the grassroots are saying. But in some cases, too, it reflects a bit of sentiments of what is going on. If you look at the areas that have got new candidates, in some cases, it might be a good omen for the party because some of the incumbents were so unpopular that if we had brought them again, would have been disaster. So when you bring new candidates, they are able to make a new case for themselves and for the party, and it tends to stop the bleeding in some of the cases, but not in all cases.
Interesting. So, Greg, I want us to look at a few of them. Okay. If we can go to the no, Botiano, I think he's still going.
Looks like a deep blue seat.
Yes.
Looks like.
The new candidate.
Yes.
Muslim lost the primaries.
Mm-hmm.
I think something like one lady a free, then I free something like that. Yes. So and I think before he lost the primaries, the polls were saying that he was going to lose badly if he had gone ahead to be the candidate. Yes.
Wow. Interesting. But then again, one could argue that if you look at the difference, 62.3%, 34.5%, that's more than 20, nearly 30% gap. If you're looking at the difference between these two, how could it get so bad that I'm still allowed to go, but then because I'm unpopular, that 30% would entirely go to the opposition party? What sort of I don't know what went into that research, but what exactly brought out that information?
One misconception which all the political parties have been making, including their analysts, is the assumption that somebody is leading by 30% and that you need to lose all 30% to lose your seat. That is mathematical farce.
Right.
To lose 30% of the margin, divide that by 2. What do we get?
15.
That's all.
That's enough to make
that is what it will cost to lose the election, not the whole 30%.
Right.
But if half of the people who are supporting you switch their side, you are finished.
You are done. Yeah.
So when they see numbers, 30%,
it's huge.
It is not. And in an election where the numbers are very, very fluid, we have seen instances where somebody is leading by 28,000, and suddenly the person is behind in the poll. So people have to be very, very careful, very, very careful this election cycle, because they could be taken by something they would never expected.
Interesting. But I think the NPP candidates, the new NPP candidates coming up against Dr. Alham, Dr. Alham, who is contesting for the very first time in that constituency. I don't know what his chances are, but let's proceed to another.
The last poll we did in Trobu, the NPP was leading by 7 points.
7 points.
Yes.
Okay. 7 points, that means about 7%.
7%, yes.
But that's
that was from 30. You look at
that's a huge reduction from what they have now. Interesting. Well, right. Let's move to another deep blue seat.
Anyaso Tuom, the NPP has won it after it was carved out of, I think, Malam, the Malam Gbawi constituency. In 2012, the NPP won, 16 NPP won, and then 20 they won. But this time, the incumbent MP Dixon Adumaku PC has been ousted.
Yeah. And I mean, if you look at the numbers too, it makes for interesting reading. In 2012, they won by 63.4%,
yes.
And in 2016 there was a surge. That was about 69. They won by 69.1%. Then nearly 5% reduction
because there was a new candidate.
Yes.
Then, yeah.
In 2020, and so they moved down to 64.7%. And so there's a new candidate. Dr. Adumaku Kisi has lost. He lost the primaries, and so there's a new candidate. What polls, if you have conducted any polls there, and what are the polls saying?
In Anasutu, Imam Toby, with the NPP candidate, is leading NDC by 5 points.
That's also another massive reduction.
There's a question I would want to ask Musa. The question is, what informs the decision for electorates in those constituencies to vote, especially going into the 2024 election?
It is the same reason everywhere. It is the economy, jobs, and education. The three key issues. And what you find is that in traditionally, you find out that the parliamentary elections are local issues. But in this election, it has become like national issues that are being fought on the ground. So some of the MPs that will lose their seat, it's not because they haven't performed. It's because the weight of the economy and then the job challenges and other issues, it's overbearing. And that could take some of them down.
What about the weight of the candidate? Is this something that will also have any bearing?
It has an advantage, but you know, when election is so much driven by national issue, even a bad candidate on the opposition side can win the seat.
Right.
Not because he's the best, but because people are angry and they want to vote straight away, not scared of blouse.
Right. Let's look at some more deep blue seats.
Central. Use Hansen Noti. He also lost
the primaries.
Yes.
And Ebi Bright, I think for the third time, will be contesting that seat, the Tema Central seat. And if you look at the history, this has been traditionally a seat that belongs to the New Patriotic Party. 77% in 2012. Interestingly, they came down in 2016 to some 68.3%, and again spiraled down to some 65% in 2020. What are we to expect as far as Tema Central is concerned in the upcoming elections?
I think Tema Central could be one of the biggest shock from the polling that we've seen. And it is the very basis we are saying that Accra will be very bloody. Because Ebi Bright is leading in the latest poll that we've done in Tema Central.
Wow.
And the underlying reason is that about 40% of people who in 2020 voted for Eves have switched their vote to Ebi Bright. 40%.
Why is that? Is there any suspicion or is there any conversation about some powers, influencing the primaries in order to ensure that Eves did not win?
No, we don't ask them some reasons for whatever they are telling us. I mean, we're just who do you want to vote for, and then we analyze how did you vote in the last election. We compare those data, and we also look at how they perceive the direction of the country, what are the top issues that matter to them. It's mentioning the economy, it's mentioning jobs, it's mentioning things that at the moment the government is not doing very well on. So definitely those are the things that impact on the decisions they make. Now, Tema Central in particular, I think the swing is abnormal. But generally in Greater Accra, about 30% swing is what we have seen in Greater Accra. But in Tema Central, it's about 40%.
Wow. Interesting. If you're just joining us, this is Election Focus live here on Pan African Television with yours sincerely, Koku Alormasor. Also, I have been joined by Justice Appiah, who is the host of Hot News here on Pan African Television. Also, Musa Dankwa. We all know Musa Dankwa has become a household name, I beg your pardon, in Ghanaian politics. When he gives you the figures, then you should take it seriously. So, currently we're having conversations about the Greater Accra region. We are looking at the various constituencies and the seats that have been won by both the NDC and the MPP in these regions. Also, we are looking at the strongholds of the MPP, the NDC, what could change and what may not change. We've been having all these conversations, but we just concluded with some deep blue seats and the very fact that most of these deep blue seats, they are incumbent members of parliament. They have lost their primaries. They lost their primaries and so wouldn't get the opportunity to represent the NPP in the December 7 election. Now, we shall be looking at these constituencies one after the other because of time, but then we shall start with the Okankwe North constituency, which Greg would be showing us. So Greg, if you can scroll down to the Okankwe North constituency, let us look at Okankwe North, I beg your pardon, and see what to expect from that constituency. We are live on Facebook, by the way. We are live on Facebook, so if you can't watch from your TV sets, alternatively, you can join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Pan African Television. So look at the history of Okankwe North. There's a constituency that has been dominated by the New Patriotic Party. You look at 96, you look at 2000, you look at 2004, it was just 2004 that the NDC won it. In 2008, the NPP wrestled back the seat. In 2012, they continued. In 2016, they won it. But in 2020, there was a shocker in Theresa Ladiawuni. She emerged victorious, beating the incumbent at the time, Fuseni Issa, in that election by some 51.07%. And so a blue seat now becoming green. And we have somebody leaving her constituency entirely, come to the Greater Accra region to contest this seat. What are we to expect in Okankwe North?
There is something we call MRP model. Basically, even if we haven't been to a constituency before, in terms of massive numbers, we can look at what is happening around the environment and see whether the demographic of the constituency is similar to the others we've been to. We have not done comprehensive poll in Okankwe North yet. But in the samples we've deployed as part of the national tracking poll, we have seen sufficient evidence to suggest that NDC will win the seat back, will retain the seat.
So Theresa Ladiawuni
is likely to retain the seat.
Is likely to win the Okankwe North constituency. Interesting. But I want to find out from you, could that have changed or could that have been different if the current or the ousted member of parliament, let's say for instance Fuseni Issa, had
won the primaries?
Yes, if he had won the primaries.
I think it would have been much closer.
Much closer if he had won them.
Yes.
So what you are telling now us is that for the very fact that it wasn't him and it was somebody else coming from another constituency, it might make the gap even wider.
Slightly wider
than what we saw in 2020. Okay, let's move away from Okankwe North. Let's do Amasaman. So Amasaman, has a history of being won by the National Democratic Congress. In 2016, they won it. No, let's go back to 2008. So in 2008, they won it. In 2012, they won it. In 2016, they won it. Unfortunately, in 2020, they lost that seat. That's one of the few seats that the National Democratic Congress lost in the 2020 general elections. And so Akwesi also a free farmers are won by some 51.14%, and Sedem Koku Afenyo won by some 48.37%. If you look at the numbers, very close. 57,638, 54,519, nearly 3,000 votes.
But bless. Akwesi also a FIFA who is the MP for the area, lost in his primaries to one Yaya Kasimata. So there will be a new face on that ballot for the NPP. But the NDC retained
still right.
Yes.
Right.
So
interesting. Right. So what are we to expect? Because already the numbers difference not too huge.
There is a guide. We are saying that generally in the Greater Accra, there is about 30% swing against the MPP. So if you are an MP and your winning margin is within this 30%, it means you are in trouble.
Okay.
That's the simple way of looking at it. Across the region, we have seen 30% swing among those who voted in 2020 to NDC. 30%. So if your winning margin anywhere in Greater Accra is not higher than this 30%, it means you could be engulfed by this swing.
Wow, interesting. So in essence, what you're telling us is that the NPP is likely to lose this seat. The NDC is they're likely to.
If you put the swing into Hamasama, it will swallow it.
It will swallow it.
Okay.
Wow, interesting. And also, no, let's still stay in Amasaman. I want to find out from you, could it still have been the case if Akwesi Owusu Efrifa had won the primaries?
Look, generally this election and the swing, those MPs we have seen are doing well are those with cross-party support. He gets some of his base MPP, he gets some of the NDC, they keep them afloat. If you don't get that support and you are just entirely your own party supporting you, the floating voters are the one causing the problems.
Interesting. So let's move now, Greg, if we can.
Right. So let's now move to
the Adentan constituency. Right. Mohammed Adamu Ramadan, he won the seat in 2020 with some 55.89% of the vote. In percentage-wise, you may think that's not too huge, but if you look at the numbers, if you subtract 63,000 from 49,000, then you have a lot. You have about 14,000 difference. If I'm correct.
One thing about this area is that it is always considered a swing, but the issue is that the parties tend to field the new candidates every election. So you see that even though the NPP won in 2004, the NDC won in 2008 and 2012, with the NDC coming back to win in 2016, and then the NDC coming again to win in the last election, the parties field new candidates. And I think thus far, it is only Yao Boabena Sama who has been the incumbent MP to lose that seat. I don't know if I'm right, but the parties tend to field new candidate. So you go for a term, you are ousted at the party level, and so a new candidate comes to run on the ticket of the party, and then they lose. So I would like to know from Musa why that trend in that enclave in Adenta. Why do the parties tend not to repose confidence in their candidates?
I think that would be a good question for Mr. Danza to answer.
When we are dealing with delegates, it's a different matter. We have what happens in delegate conferences is only God knows. So you can't use those delegate decisions as a base of the constituents.
Okay.
Right.
And I speak to ordinary voters, not delegates. Okay. And there you have natural expression of either liking for the candidate or dislike. Maybe this will give us the first time to see a candidate being repeated and see what happens there. That's a better way of judging what is happening, rather than using the delegate of NDC and MPP, changing people as they wish.
But Akosua Menu
repeated and then he lost.
Yes, he lost.
Yes.
But Akosua Menu is on the ticket of the New Patriotic Party this time around. Abu Ramadan still for the National Democratic Congress. What does the analysis say?
What is the gap here?
So we are seeing some 14,000
in favor of Ramadan.
Yes.
And we are saying that there's a swing against MPP in Greater Accra, 30%.
Wow. Okay. So
it means that it will increase Ramadan side. That's just logic of polling data.
Right. Bless. I would like us to come to what I consider is the Battle of Accra, because this was one election that shocked a lot of people. Okoboy, for many, it came to them as a shock when he was ousted from office by Benjamin Ayiku. Now he has come back again to contest for that seat, and he's coming up against the same candidate who is now incumbent MP who ousted him from office. And so what are the trends also saying? We would like to know from Musa what the trends are also saying in that constituency.
Right. If you look at the Okoboy, he is doing better than many of the MPP MPs.
Despite not being an MP.
Despite not being an MP.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the weight of the change is very heavy in the constituency. And so in the recent poll that we did, I think Ayiku is around 56%.
Wow, that's quite huge.
Yeah.
That's huge.
I have lived in Lejokuku before. Okay. The first time I ever voted was in the Lejokuku constituency, and there's a trend I noticed. It's very difficult for an incumbent member of parliament, whether you are MPP or you are NDC, to win the seats twice in a row.
Yeah, but this election is not normal election. If you take this election as the normal election, then you are deceiving yourself. That is why a lot of trends are being broken. We've never had an election where a swing in one region is 30% from data point of view. Wow. Never happened. And that is what we are seeing data consistently over 24 months.
According to his constituents, the reason why they voted against him in the 2020 election is about the fact that he wasn't attending funerals, weddings.
That's what we've been told. And he doesn't make weighty contributions.
Exactly. He's now seeking to come back. What if he has corrected those mistakes?
You remember I said that he is one of the MPs that
has been doing well.
Yes.
But the weight of the swing in the Greater Accra, driven by the economy, is too much for him alone to carry. Right. I mean, there are other questions. There's some questions I want to ask in relation to what would be informing the decision of the Ghanaian voter. And like you stated, the economy may play a role, or it's playing a role. It's actually playing a major role in it. I'll return to the other questions later. But let's look at Clote Kole constituency. This is a constituency that's currently occupied by Ghana's first president of the Fourth Republic, the daughter, Zaneto Agyemang Rawlings. And ideally, let's look at the history. Greg, if you can look at the history of the Clote Kole constituency.
Right, so in 96, the NDC won that seat by 33.1%. In 2000 and 2004, the NPP swept that seat. And then in 2008, and then in 2012, and then in 2016, the NDC won. Now, in 2016, that was the first time the incumbent MP came on board, and she won in 2016. Now, in 2020, she won with 39,343 votes, representing 55.6% of the total vote cast. Now, against Prince Apia Debra of the NPP. Now, this time around, she's coming up against Valentino Ninoy, and he is quite a popular face as far as the NPP caucus in the constituency is concerned. Now, he was one time in a race with counsel for Nana Akufo-Addo in the 2012 election case, Philip Addison, and he had to be disqualified. So it tells you that if you even speak to party folks in that area, they tell you that the wind of change was showing that he could have won against Addison in that time, and so the party hierarchy had to do something about it. This time he has made his way onto the ballot and he's coming up against the incumbent MP. And so this also looks like a battle on the face of it, but as a man of numbers, what are the numbers to
Yes,
say?
you look at the difference in terms of sheer numbers. There's just about 8,000, nearly 8,000, not 8,000, nearly 8,000 exactly. But what could happen? I know Greg is actually close to the incumbent member of parliament. There are lots of rumors. There are lots of rumors. I've had cause to speak with some persons in the opposition. Ruling government, but they are also contesting on the ticket of the NPP. And what I've heard is that this time around, the person they are bringing is an Osu person. And so, if you look at the elections that have been held in the past, you go to the Koku, they've always had issues when it comes to Osu. So now that they are bringing somebody from Osu, they think that it could have an influence on the election. But what can we expect?
I don't see her losing the seat.
But what role would religion, ethnicity, and the likes, play in the upcoming elections?
Let's take religion for a start. It will not be a reason why somebody will vote for A or B.
Okay.
But in some cases, it may be the excuse to vote for or vote against. Besides other factors, let me add, and we will see that play in both ways, both among Muslims and among Christians. But its effect will be very, very negligible.
Right.
Ethnicity, it's always been there, but not been profound. But I think this time around, it will be neutralized on the part of both MPP and NDC.
Why is that?
Because usually MPP field Akan candidates. So the non-Akan tends to get a swing against them. In this case, they are both from the northern part of the country. So on that level, between the two, it may not be anything. It will be neutralized. Okay. But I think there will be some who may vote or may not vote for DMB because of the Akan factor. That number is not very significant. Because you would expect those who don't like neither Muhammad nor Baumia to look for something they like. And those could be in the area of Lanchel Martin and Akwan Bediago.
Okay. Right. So you don't see her losing in this area?
No.
Okay.
So, but what numbers should we look at? Could she better the 55 points?
I haven't done a specific poll numbers in that constituency yet. But if we use the regional swing as a benchmark, then you expect her to increase the margin, because Accra is going to be very, very tough for MPP.
Okay.
That's the rule. I think we all agree on that one.
Right.
Even they agree.
Right. So let's stay a bit, on Koku constituency and go back to the issue of, ethnicity. People are saying, just like my colleague rightly intimated, people are saying that Ninoy is an indigene of the place. He's a non.
So now you are talking about the constituency-specific.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. You see, if that is the rule, and there are many MPs in Accra here who are not gas,
right?
And they should leave the seats. I mean, Ablekuma West is typically gang dominated, but the MP is from Achim,
right?
So I mean, those will be peripheral issues, and you don't expect. You see, elections in this country are mostly driven on party lines. Not ethnic and those lines. So even within the gangs and within the gangs there, among them are MPP, among them are NDC. So they will vote the way they are voting, and among them are floating voters. So the lines are drawn on party lines. So the party lines are more stronger than the ethnic being gang or not gang. So I think the party is stronger than the ethnic affiliations in constituencies.
So in other words, what you are trying to say is that the NDC is much stronger in that constituency than the New People.
No, across the country, NDC is more united than NPP. So if NDC people should stay with their candidate, and MPP stay with their candidate. We have some switching their camp to NDC because of the situation.
Right.
They have the floating voters at the moment voting for NDC. They don't expect much to happen there.
Right.
So the ethnicity may play some role, but overall effect
not too significant to cause a change.
I don't think so.
We are moving to the Tema East region, Tema East constituency. I beg your pardon. I think I need to take in some water. Right, so the Tema East constituency, that seat is currently being occupied by the NDC's Isaac Niashai or Damteng. It's a fishing community, and of course he came up against Daniel Ni Kwate Titus Glover, who was the incumbent at the time, but lost. He lost quite, if you look at the figures, quite big, quite huge, about over 9,000 votes if you check the figures in there. But what are we to expect, especially when you look at the history of the Tema East constituency? Greg, if you could run us through.
Right. So in '96, the NPP won there. In 2000, the NDC won there, and then in 2004, in fact, from 2004 to 2016, the NPP dominated that seat. It was until 2020 that Ashai Odamten, who came on board to then oust incumbent MP Daniel Nikwate Titus Glover. And so this time around also, it's a new phase that is going to be on that ballot. I'm hearing is a current MCE for Tema, who will be coming up against Isaac Ashai Odamten, who also happens to be the former MCE for Tema. So it's a battle of MCEs, and so I think that is also one area that we should be looking at.
But then, coming to Mr. Dankwa on this, the polls have been in favor of the New Patriotic Party until 2020. In fact, it was only in 2000 that the NDC won the Tema East constituency, 96, 2004, 2008, 2012, 2016. But then, in 2020, the NPP lost the seat, and the margin is quite big. Is this a seat that can return to the NPP, especially looking at the current circumstances and the swing? If you put the swing there, it's not working.
So, see, that's why we provide people with formula to determine which seat is safe and which seat may not be safe. Now, if it's a formula, just apply the formula anywhere. If there are exceptions, it will show you, and we'll see the exceptions from the data. Now, let me single out Okankwe Central to make a point. There is no swing hugely against him. Where people have lost 30% of their base, he hasn't. In fact, he has gained people from NDC voting for him. So then the swing becomes neutral.
Minimal,
A minimal. That's why he's still standing. So if you apply that swing to him, you see that he's in the opposite of the others. That's why he appears to be the safest. Because the swing is not against him.
That's not against him.
Everywhere else, the swing is against you, and it's 30%, you are in trouble. And if you look at those that are also leading in the poll, like Trobu and Anyaso Tum, the swing was there, but the net effect, because they had a very huge margin there, the net effect there give them still 5% and 7% lead in the poll. Where the lead has disappeared entirely is because the swing is just too much.
Right. We're still watching Election Focus here on Pan-African Television. We are throwing a light or a spotlight on the Greater Accra constituency, or the Greater Accra region, I beg your pardon, with some 34 constituencies. We are looking at them, the ones that could fall to the swing. If the swing is placed in there, we've looked at a few. Can we look at some more constituencies? Let's look at the domain. Right. So
let's go to
Ladade Kutupong. That's a very interesting constituency as well. If you look at the voting pattern, it appears that there's a constituency that has been quite generous to the National Democratic Congress, if I'm not wrong. Have we gotten Ladade Kotopon yet? Yes. So out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so it was actually carved out of a constituency in 1996. So since 96, the NDC have won it about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is plus the 2020, and the NPP won it in 2000 and 2016. You look at the margin, that's about some 8%, 47,601, 41,101. This one, I can make my own predictions, but I can make my own predictions, especially the things that are happening over there.
There's an interesting trend over there.
Yes.
The driver to the current president, Joseph Ado, if I'm right, is coming up against the incumbent.
Richard Alormasor.
Yes, he went through the party, battle, and he came out on top, and he's coming up against the incumbent MP. So there's also some trend over there, but it's more or less a green seat, but for just 2 times that the NPP have managed to win that seat.
And you don't think that the issues surrounding the La General Hospital could actually be one of the reasons for
that
which
will swing?
Right.
Yes.
Right. Let me come to Mr. Danko on this, on La Dade Kotopon. What are we to expect?
We've done not a specific poll in terms of special polls, but every time we've picked that constituency as part of our national tracking poll, it has always put NDC ahead.
NDC,
yes, and if we know what is happening in the Koku and Krowo, certainly we can conclude that the same thing will apply to Lade Kotopon.
Right. So that's what to expect as far as
Central
Ladade Kotopon is concerned. We are now going to the Ablekuma Central constituency. Abdul Latif Dan, 47,040.
Very, very close.
And his closest contender, Ebenezer Gilbert Ni Nate, 46,836. And I understand that this is an election that actually cost their life in the 2020 election. And so
I think one young man was shot at
very close.
Yes,
that's 0.0022%, if my mathematics is correct. So 47,000, 46,000. Fine margins there when you go to the Ablekuma Central.
And then also the MP who lost to the incumbent MP lost the primaries to Jefferson Saki. So there's a new face coming on board who looks to be very appealing to the party structure in that enclave, and so it's also a battle owing to even the result of the last election. So Mr. Musa Danko, I'm sure that's also one area we'd like to pick your thought on.
Yeah, fortunately there was a recent poll that we did in Ablekuma Central, and it is quite emphatic. Jefferson was 40%, and Dan Abdul Latif 59.6%.
Wow.
The gap has
widened more than what he garnered. Okay, right. Wow.
Okay, so that's like the effect of the swing.
Yes.
That's the effect of the swing.
You see how the swing is translating to some of this. So where NDC won the seat, the margin would increase. Where they lost, if the margin is within the swing, they could snatch it.
Right. Interesting. We'll finally do the Ododo constituency. Let's look at the Ododo constituency. If Gregory Amwa, you have that, kindly scroll through. Let's get to Ododo and see what will transpire over there. Interestingly, the current member of parliament for the Ododo constituency won't be contesting the elections. It's not as if he didn't contest the primaries at all. So he's not contesting. He said he's had enough of parliament, and so another person should take over. But interesting constituency. The New Patriotic Party have won it only once, and that was in the year 2000 when they won it by some 51.4%. That aside, from 1996 we jumped to 2004, 2008, 2012, 2016, 2020. It's always been the NDC. But Mr. Dankwa, this is an interesting observation I've made just from the screen. The NDC's votes have been spiraling in Odududu since 2012. So 2012, 63, but 2016, 57, and then in 2020, 53. Why is that?
And now also, just a minute, now also the NPP have ditched this candidate.
Neil Antebanaman.
One Manaf Soa, who is also considered as a son of the land as well. Who is also, if you pick the thought of the NPP caucus in that area, they see him as a son of the land, and so he's appealing to their ranks in that constituency as well.
Nothing will change there.
Nothing will change.
Yeah, but maybe it might be a bit tighter, not tighter compared to the rest.
Okay.
Because there have been some local development that may play a role somehow. And also, I think Neil Antebanaman became Mugabe of the constituency, and he was becoming a bit unpopular.
Okay.
That's why he came close to that number. I don't expect that number to be repeated again.
Okay.
And is this also, have you also taken into consideration that the National Democratic Congress had issues there in their primaries, for instance? It had to, I think it was just a few months ago that the primaries in that constituency was done. And one of the candidates there, people said he was the leading candidate. Unfortunately, he had to be disqualified by the party because he didn't meet some criteria. He was supposed to have been a member of the party for at least 4 years, and he didn't meet that criteria. Could this play a role?
Now, we've done some polls there in Odududu before NDC elected their candidate, and we did scenario matching Manaf and the other guy, Manaf and other people, and the numbers were very, for us, very comfortable to say that the seat will be retained by NDC.
By Ashikuti, okay, right.
There's a question I would want to ask. It looks as if Greater Accra region is tilting towards the National Democratic Congress in the upcoming election, according to your poll. Question is, to what extent would unpopular party decisions and conflicts within some of these constituencies in the region affect, their chances of winning the region?
You have to be specific. Are you conflict within NDC or
within NDC?
So if you give me specific constituency, I can look at.
So when you take Trouble for example,
yes,
Trouble is a constituency that could have show up their votes or the numbers they get within that constituency. But per what I know, then the information that I have, they have a lot of issues over there. A lot of issues ranging from fights between the PC and then the constituency chairman. In fact, amongst the executives, there are problems. They are fighting each other. They are divided, and all that, which is affecting their chances in the election.
No, that's why in the poll, he is about 7 points behind. So do the maths. Maybe if they were united, they could have done better.
Yeah. But the deal is another place that they are still having problems. Take it or leave it.
No, you see, we always have problems. The problem is difficult to resolve if it is among ordinary voters. Among executives, sometimes they may sit out, they won't support. But once the general voters decide, it doesn't matter what you executives say, because it's an election of voters, not of delegates or party executives, which is a bigger issue. But then you have people who are lukewarm, who may not take active part in the campaign, and that sometimes drive down the numbers a bit, and sometimes they do underground work to undermine your candidature, as we've seen in some places. It helps when you're united, certainly, but some of the division, the swing is so huge, it will just make some dent, but not huge impact. If you are losing and we are divided, they will lose. That's as simple as that.
Right, thank you so much. You're still watching Election Focus live on Pan-African Television. There's still so much more we have for you on the show today. Let's go for a short breather. We return with more here on Election Focus.
Occupied by Edwin Lanti der Poel, whose exit after serving 3 terms has paved the way for Alfred Ashikote and Abdul Manaf Sowore of the New Patriotic Party as main contenders. Geographically, it starts from the Jamestown beach and goes through the Ring Road South to the Graphic Road, bordering the Klote-Kole, Ablekuma South, and Ablekuma Central constituencies. It is one of the busiest parts of the capital city that bustles with economic activity as its commercial centers, drawing hundreds of people from far and near on a daily basis. Prominent markets and business centers such as Agbogloshi, Timber Market, the Kokomba Yam Market, and Kantamanto are all located there, keeping the constituency ranking high among its peers in terms of commercial activities. It can be described as the engine of the Greater Accra region in terms of the supply of foodstuff, as a greater chunk of yam, fish, meat, and vegetables such as tomatoes, onions, and cabbage are found in its market. The coastal part of the constituency, whose residents are mostly fishermen, is also a hub for tourism, with the Asha Fort serving as the greatest relic of British colonial rule in the country. It also comprises major communities such as Old Fadama, Jamestown or British Accra, Bukom, Erina, Palladium, and Adedenkbo. In terms of the local government structure, it falls within the Isiedu-Ketekesab Metro with 7 electoral areas, including Amamumu, Mudo, Kikan, and Koledidon. A number of colonial edifices of historic, cultural, and tourist significance, including the James Fort and the colonial-era lighthouse, the General Post Office, Brazilian House, Opera Cinema, Salaga Market, and the Oxford Street, are also located in this constituency. The constituency, renowned for a history of high turnout during elections, equally boasts of an impressive accomplishment in both boxing and football. The first person to occupy the seat in the first parliament of the Fourth Republic was Ishmael Tete Aiti of the National Democratic Congress, who once served as mayor of Accra. In 1996, Ni Okaija Adamafio dismissed a tough competitor, Samuel Atta Odue Sykes, who later became the New Patriotic Party's national chairman, having backed 29,162 votes compared to his main challenger, who secured 27,097. Riding on the message of change, Reginald Nibi Ayibonte of the New Patriotic Party emerged victorious in 2000, garnering 28,270 votes, while the incumbent trailed with 24,181. 4 years later, he shockingly lost the seat to Samuel Ni Ayi Mankata, who obtained 35,634 votes. After spending only 6 months in office as a legislator, he died on July 5, 2005, paving the way for a by-election held on August 25th, which saw Jonathan Ni Takikome shrugging off Asafo Achesi Mankata's challenge to retain the seat. He cruised to victory, having secured 26,841 votes, with his opposite number polling 18,464. The story was no different in 2008, when he polled 34,182 votes, while the New Patriotic Party's Mahamed Ajayi-Sowa, who later became mayor of Accra, came second with 25,495. Edwin Lanti der Poel, who previously served as Minister of Youth and Sports, floored retired Army officer Victor Kute Okaikwe of the New Patriotic Party in 2012. The former sports journalist won by a landslide with 45,967 votes against 26,269 for his opponent. He retained the seat in 2016, beating his main opponent, Edward Patrick Nilanti Bannerman of the New Patriotic Party, with 36,606 votes, while the latter polled 26,671. In the 2020 elections, he obtained 41,446 votes to decisively and resoundingly defeat the same challenger, who managed 34,887. A hotbed of politics, given its diversity, constituents will decide the fate of the leading parties in this year's hugely anticipated elections, with the New Patriotic Party poised to recapture power from the National Democratic Congress.
Right, welcome back to the show. You're still watching Election Focus live here on Pan-African Television. We're live from our studios at number 48 Swanika Street in Abilinkpe, also in 46 other African countries via satellites in some parts of Europe. We are streaming on Facebook. I see scores of you have joined. Keep it up. We are thankful, we are grateful that you have joined us on this day. But we've done a lot of talking about the various constituencies and the chances of the NDC and NPP. Mr. Danko has told us that if the swing is there and the margin isn't huge, you didn't win by a huge margin and you are a ruling party, then it means that you can expect that you would lose in the upcoming election. So if I were a member of parliament of the New Patriotic Party and I'm in the Greater Accra region, then it means that I need to quickly start doing something about this situation. But Ivy Abnadini Nakite is a reporter here with us at Pan-African Television. You see her on the news, but we shall be looking at some of the characters in about 6 constituencies here in the capital. Ivy, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. How's it going?
Very well, very, very well. I see already you have for us the Adentan constituency. Can you run us through them?
So we have the characters for the 2 political parties, which is the opposition National Democratic Congress and the NPP, the New Patriotic Party. Now, the Adentan constituency come December 2024 general elections is going to be such an interesting thing. I mean, when it comes to the parliamentary elections. Now, Mohammed Adamu Ramadan is the incumbent member of parliament for the Adentan constituency, and we do know that he is the elder brother to the second lady, Samira Baumia, and Akosia Samenu, popularly known as Cozy, is also representing the New Patriotic Party, and she's also the daughter-in-law of former NPP national chairman Mr. Peter McMenu. So this is such an interesting story altogether, but we'll be looking at their strength and their weaknesses so far. So that's it for the Adentan constituency. Ramadan, who is the incumbent member of parliament for the Adentan constituency, and Akosia Asamenu, the NPP's parliamentary candidate. I don't know if we can look at their, bless.
Yeah, so briefly, Mr. Dankwa I'm sure he knows them. He knows who Abu Ramadan is. He knows who Kozi is, and characters. We've looked at the political parties, but does it matter? The question about who is there and their influence, does it matter? And do any of these 2 have a bigger influence on the constituency than the other?
I mean, who matters, but I haven't done any research to unearth their strengths and weaknesses as parliamentary candidates in the constituency. But being an incumbent member of parliament is an advantage in an area where your party is on a front foot, meaning that the wind is blowing you are not sailing against the wind if you are NDC MP in Greater Accra, whereas MPP MPs are sailing against the wind. So there's a lot of challenges they have to confront as candidates. But I think we're going to see a battle of Ramadan and Akosua Menu. But as I indicated, I don't expect Adenta to flip.
Right, we move on to the next one, Ivy.
All right, the Krowo constituency, Agnes Namomo Latte, she is the NDC's parliamentary candidate and also doubles as the incumbent member of parliament for the constituency. And she is contended Engineer Emmanuel Odai. Engineer Emmanuel Odai is the NPP's parliamentary candidate come December 2024 general elections. I mean, representing the good people of Krowo constituency.
Right. Now, before I come to Mr. Dankwa, the Agnes Namomo Latte, interestingly, won this election against a minister, the Minister for Fisheries and Aquaculture, in the 2020 general elections. And so, talk about the personality. And she's coming up against an engineer in the person of Emmanuel Odai. What did the swing say, and does who matter here again?
No, I'm trying to stay away from
the who.
Yeah, because it's not something that I'm competent to speak about the who. Because we are in our office, we only see data. We don't see people's faces. We don't see how they interact with their people in the community. We only speak to data. So if I don't have data, I will not be able to transcend to make commentary about people's personality. And so we try to stick with the numbers. But if the numbers is what we are looking at, I mean, what is going to happen in Koku will happen in Krowo. So they have slightly the same kind of demography.
Right, so Agnes Namomo Latte might emerge victorious in the upcoming polls after ousting the former Minister for Fisheries and Aquaculture. Let's move to the next one. Ladade Kotopon.
Ladade Kotopon constituency, Rita Na Odele Sowa is the member of parliament, the incumbent member of parliament, and she represents the opposition National Democratic Congress. Joseph Gerald Addo, NPP, the popular former driver to President Akufo Addo.
Okay. From driver to MP. that's some high.
Interesting.
That's some very high.
Elevation.
Yeah. But Justice, you have something to say about it. Musa Dankwa has registered his disinterest in looking at personalities. He speaks to data, not just who you are.
Yes. Right. Between these two people, I don't really see how Mr. Joseph Gerald Addo is able to sail through, because Rita Naodolesowa is somebody who is very strong in that constituency. She's a grassroots person, and if you go to the Ladade Kotopon constituency, I mean, I can only speak to, you know, what we are listening to on the grounds and all of that, and not the data, just like Mr. Dankwa would do. But I see the incumbent member of parliament, you know, winning the seat once again.
Not so much time, so I will run us through.
All right, so quickly, let's move to the Ododo Diodio constituency. NDC's parliamentary candidate Alfred Ashikote is set to face Abdul Manaf Sowa of the New Patriotic Party. Okaikwe North constituency is quite a popular constituency. Yes, we do know what is happening. Teresa Ladi Awuni, the NDC's parliamentary candidate, who is also the incumbent member of parliament for the constituency, is facing Nana Amadokria Esiama Eje, the NPP's parliamentary candidate, all the way from Mampong. Yes, so she's facing Teresa Ladi Awuni come December 2024 general elections. Now, Okaikwe Central constituency, we have Sadiq Abdul Abu, the former CEO of 3 Music Awards. He is the NDC's parliamentary candidate, and Patrick Yalbuama, the NPP's parliamentary candidate. Tema East constituency, Isaac Odante, NDC, and Yohane Ama Ashite, the NPP. All right, so that's it for Tema East constituency. Bless.
Right, our time is up. Unfortunately, I want to thank Mr. Dankwa, Musa Dankwa, for his insight, for his knowledge here on the show this afternoon. It's been a pleasure hanging out with you, sir. We do appreciate you, and we hope that this isn't the last time that we are seeing you. Also to Justice Apia, and also to Ivy Abnade Nakita. And to you, our cherished viewers, we appreciate you so much for your time this afternoon. Tomorrow, we are coming to your constituency. We will be giving you the microphones. You are going to be telling us your issues, your challenges. Keep on watching Election Focus. My name is Koku Alormasor. I'll catch you. Bye-bye.